Hello, everybody. It's J.P. Murray with the Murray Company. So delighted to be with you. Can't wait to chat about prospects that have gone dark, they've gone cold, they haven't spoken with you in some time, and maybe how we could keep that from happening. It's going to be a great session. I hope that I can chalk all of this info. I'm just going to do a dump of everything I know about the topic for you in about 30 minutes. For those of you that are members of a team, I know we've got a lot of associations in the Washington, D.C. area, and I know that you're the people that are working this week instead of being on spring break. So what I'm going to do is we're recording this session, and we'll make that recording and the PowerPoint available. I think we usually do it on YouTube, and we'll send a link to you so your colleagues can get this information, or you can refer to it as well. So I'm so happy to be with you. Let's talk about this topic because I know it's happened to all of us. First of all, I know that I want to give you just a quick background on the company and what we're all about, not from the context of, hey, here's who we're all about, but where we're coming from on this topic of sales pipeline, managing prospects, etc. The Murray Company sells membership sponsorships, ads, and exhibits for trade associations specifically. We've been doing so for almost a little over 8.5 years now. We make more than 250,000 contacts doing this. So we're in the field with you, like many of you are, selling and making your value proposition available to the marketplace. And in doing so, we're going to capture some of those best practices, things that we've experienced, mistakes we've made along the way, and tell you a little bit about those. And then by doing that, some associations ask us to give them advice on their pricing for their membership dues. Oh my gosh, dues analysis pricing is one of the hottest things that's going on right now. New membership categories, building out new sponsorship prospectuses, things like that. So we're coming at it from a perspective of we're your colleague, we're your friends, we do a lot of the same thing. Got my sales team up there, aren't they a good looking bunch? With the exception of our VP, Elizabeth Johnson, who was on maternity leave when we took the pick. So we're on your team, and we're always available to help you and give you some insights. So let's set up the stage here a little bit. Hey, man, we had a great conversation. It went great. They were very friendly. The prospect loved what we had to say. I think we're with the decision maker, and they want a proposal or they want a membership app. This is just flying right along. Oh, my gosh, we're going to close this so fast. It's going to make everybody happy, including the CEO of the association. Then what happens? Prospect goes dark. They don't return our calls. I've emailed them. I've phoned them. I don't know what to do. I've heard that in sales meetings. I've said it in sales meetings. I've been there with you. So nobody's returning the call. I'm in a panic because I put it in the pipeline after the first conversation at 70%. Now I'm desperate, and it's the prospect's fault, right? Maybe not. Might be our fault. We may have let it happen. We may have, just overcome and looked over some of the objection notices they were giving us. And that's our mistake. So what I'm trying to do here is we're going to talk about how we minimize the likelihood of this is going to happen to us, okay? So I'll talk about why do they get stuck in the first place. If there's one thing I want you to save and take notes on or download when we send you the presentation, it's effective qualification can eliminate this as being a major problem for you. Some tactics that we've used to stay in the game, to keep folks engaged, using data from your CRM to manage the process better. Because if you know the process and you know your data points, you'll know when to get somebody up or out of the pipeline, how long it should take them to close, etc. And then I'm going to give you some secret tactics. They're not secrets, but they're tactics that have worked for me to keep people out of that cold state and get them reengaged. So let's take it on. Why did they get stuck in the first place? Well, I think we need to be very candid and transparent about this. Sometimes it's not a fit. Our membership or our prospectus or sponsorship prospectus or our exhibit program may not be a fit for our point of contact. And I think that's fine. Sometimes I think we need to recognize that some of the folks that just because they're in our industry doesn't mean that necessarily they should be joining this association. Okay? I'm fine with recognizing that fact. So sometimes it really isn't a fit. It might be too expensive for the point of contact to make a call on. Or it isn't valuable enough for our point of contact to use his or her political capital internally to get more resources and to get the deal done. They're not confident that it's worth it enough to go the extra mile to get the thing done for you or for them. The prospect might be overwhelmed. Oh my gosh, they've got so much. And by the way, we do this sometimes. We send them so much information that the prospect is overwhelmed. And they don't even know how to participate. They don't have enough time in their busy day to process, okay, how am I going to deal with this association stuff? And then finally, they might have needs that are addressed by another association better. It's rare. I don't hear this as much as I used to. My point is, if this comes up, we need a response for it. And frankly, we need to recognize that the prospect is often doing something else like their own job, and with membership in particular, there may be a lack of urgency to get the deal done. Frankly, they've been in business for 10 years. They might be in a business for another 10 years. And whether they join the association or not, they may not feel it's absolutely imperative to keep their doors open by joining your association. So we've got to think about these things before we go into the qualification process, because the main reason they get stuck is because we didn't qualify them very well, and we put them in the pipeline when really they weren't ready. So folks, slide number 7 is the one that I think you might want to think about keeping or writing down. Because what I've learned, if I know more of these answers in number 10, not assuming the answers, but hearing them from the prospect directly, the more of these that I know in the affirmative, or I know what the answer is, the more likely they are to join, and the more likely they are to stay engaged and never go cold on us. So let's start. What are the questions? What's the prospect want to solve? What's the problem? A lot of times we start talking about our benefits and our advantage and our services right away when we don't really know what they want. First question is, what do they specifically want from the association? What can we help them solve? And what is our specific solution to that? Because what we'll often do, instead of identifying, hey, you want to meet more business prospects, you want to grow your business, I'm going to help you get appointments at our upcoming annual meeting. That's a specific solution. Instead of, oh, you're interested in the association? Blah, let me throw every single piece of information about our organization to you. I'll put it in a kit, and I'll stuff it full of brochures, or I'll send you 1,000,000 links in a follow-up email. We don't know what the solution is. Let's find the problem and the solution. Who really makes the decision? Just because I'm talking to you on the phone and you're willing to have a dialogue doesn't mean you're the person that's making the call. And oh, by the way, I'm all right with talking and speaking with many of the people in the organization, because I'm finding that often there are more than one person makes the decision about the association, but one person really decides and says yes, and we're going to stroke the check. Okay? The next step of the process is, what's the date? What's the date of the next step? What is the process and what is the next step? So absolutely critical to knowing this to make sure they don't go cold or they don't disengage. The next one, do they have the money to spend? Oh my gosh, how many times have I been in a sales situation when, hey, we're rolling and they're taking it, and man, we got this thing closed. And all of a sudden they say, you know what, I don't really have the budget now. And I've been selling them for, 5 months. Whose fault? My fault. I didn't ask them. Do you have the money to spend right now? No, we've got to wait until the next budget cycle. Awesome. I'm fine with that. But I'm not putting them in the pipeline now. Let's wait and re-engage in January or whenever it might be. What's the deadline for a final decision? This is easier when you have a defined deadline, like a meeting for a sponsorship, but I'm going to give you some ideas of how we might identify deadlines for a final decision, go, no-go date, with even membership prospects. And then the next two, 8 and 9, are kind of connected. Like, they've got a problem, right? Because they've told us. We've got a solution. What are they going to do if they don't join us? What's the alternative? This is a great question to get from them. Because if it's nothing, then I think our likelihood to close them is not great. But if it's like, oh no, we've got to fix this. I'm either hiring a lobbyist to deal with it, we've got to hire another person. Those are the things I want to hear, because those are the prospects that are hotter and more likely to close for us. And then what's the one thing, I love this question, what's the one thing that could keep this from happening? Price, boss says no, I move on to another job. Something like that, great to know. The more of these 10 that you know because of your conversation, the more likely they're going to stay involved in the entire process with you. How do we keep them warm? My guess is you're going to hear some common objections, and I want you to develop some talking points for those. I've found this to be one of the best things I've ever done in the sales game, and the only thing I'm sorry about is I realized it way too late, until I got gray hair, and I waited way too long to develop these kinds of talking points, because the thing is, you're going to hear them over and over again. So I'm going to give you a couple ideas, because the key is we don't just hear the objection and then just skate by it and think we have it fixed, all right? So let me give you a few ideas, because if we don't cover these well, we're going to get bogged down, and I think the sales process might stop and you never hear from them again. So, too expensive, right? I love these objections because you can smoke them out and you've heard them over and over again. So the importance is, let's find a good articulate answer so then we can respond and hear what they have to say to it. Too expensive. Well, first of all, I'd like to talk about pricing kind of at the end of the pipeline if possible, especially on membership. I don't want to talk about how much it costs early on. Because say, hey, we can talk about pricing and everything. Let's find out if we can help you solve your problem, and if you can get value for this from this association, and if it's a fit first. Okay? So hopefully we're talking about price on the back end of the process. But if it comes up, and it will, hey man, that's too expensive. I can't afford it. Here's my response I want you to ask them. If it wasn't for budget or money, would you do it? Shut up and listen. See what they say. If they say, oh, yeah, oh, I'd absolutely do it. I love what you guys are doing. Great. Now we've got a whole other, frankly, we have a whole other webinar to talk about those things. How to overcome budget and things like that. But I want them to say, oh, yeah, I would do it. If they say, I'm not sure, now we've got to go way back to the process and start to establish the value again, because we're not aligned yet. Too expensive. Ask the question, hey, I completely understand. That's what a lot of our prospects said early on. Tell me, if it wasn't for budget or if it wasn't too expensive, would you do it? Great question. Then listen to what they say. Hey, too much time. It's going to take too much time. We can't do it. You know what? Often we establish this objection because we gave them so much information that they couldn't get through all of it. This is the importance of identifying what the problem is that they want us to help them solve. Too much time. Here's the response. You know what? And I've heard this, right? Too much time. You know what? I understand that. Often, here's what I hear from our very best members. They thought it would take too much time. And actually, what happens is we have a full-time person on regulatory affairs. We have a full-time person on compliance. They're going to go through all the information you have to know, and they're going to send it to you, only the most critical and when you need to act. It's actually going to save you time. right? Here's the other cautionary tale I want to tell you. Sometimes we talk about, hey, when you join, you can be on all these committees and you can participate in this task force and blah, 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 and they're starting to go, oh my gosh, it's going to be too much time. I would wait about the engagement in some of your leadership positions until after they join. We get that information through another association is a common objection. I love that one because we know through data that the people that join an association are much more likely to join another association. Here's the response to that one. Hey, that's great. You might be taken care of. What do you like the most about what they do? My experience is they don't have the foggiest idea. They don't know. They use it because 80% of the time it gets you off the phone. So all I'm asking for you is to smoke that question out a little bit. Hey, that's great. Sounds like you might be taken care of. In fact, a lot of our members are members of that association. Tell me what you like the most about it. Listen to the answer. And then you can often say, you know what? I know a lot of folks in our industry have multiple relationships with associations, and we hope they do. That's true, by the way. Don't sell against another association. But our people like this the most about us. Bomb, bomb, bomb. Hit the major problems that you're going to solve for them. The last one here on this page is, hey, send me the information. You might not think it's an objection. I do. Because 80% of the time, they want to get you off the phone, get you to move on to somebody else. They don't want to talk. They don't have time, i.e., and they may not be interested. Sending you the information actually begins them to get into a going cold or not engaged status. Don't send them the information until you know, because I can tell what's going to happen. Hey, this sounds interesting. I might be interested. Send me the information. Then we send them the information, and then we spend all of our time trying to follow up with them and get back in touch with them, and they never return our call. Here's what I say. Hey, I've got enough information to choke a hog to send to you. But I want to send you only the information that you need to help address the issues that you have or solve the problem or what you might most be interested in. What is that? Then I'll send the information to you. Have these objections identified, talking points, and have them in front of you whenever you're making the calls, because if you can help address them, it will keep the process going and without them going cold. Here's some other ways to stay in the game, to keep them from going cold. The biggest problem that we have, I think, in this area is we have our initial call or information, we send it to them, and then what do? Hey, I just want to check in to see when you're going to join. Hey, I want to follow up on our conversation about joining. Hey, are you going to join this week? No wonder they don't call us back. So what I'm really big on is, and our team, really trying to say, after we have that initial conversation and we talk them through the process, right, is that we keep relevant by saying, hey, I know you're interested in regulatory issues. Here's a webinar we're having about California and air quality. By the way, there's always a regulation in California. So there's something of relevance for you to send them that's not about sales. And by doing that, you address the next two things. Develop some action they have to take. They have to register for that webinar. Oh, hey, I thought you might be interested in this white paper that we've done about sustainability. Let me know if you want it. They've got to respond to you to get it, right? So it starts a back and forth that's conditioning them about acting, not going cold or dark in the process. Here's the other thing. I want some incentives, especially on membership. Now, I'm not necessarily an advocate of reducing the dues rate, but what I'm saying here is we're finding an increasingly high number of new members that we're recruiting participated as a non-member at a live event or program that the association offered. So, an example might be, hey, I tell you what, I've got an opportunity for you to come as a guest of mine to this upcoming meeting. I only want you to do it, though. I only have so many of these. I only want you to do it if you're really interested in us. those people convert, and it gets them to respond. And make sure that they know the sales process that you might have for them. Here's an example. This is my sales process. So don't laugh about it, but it's kind of the way I do things when I'm working with associations. It's basically, I get a lead, probably because they've opened an email or they clicked on some of our content. I ask them if they want to talk about that opportunity. If they want to talk about sponsorships, man, I'd be delighted to tell you all I know about it. When they say yes, we develop an opportunity, and then I confirm with them the next meeting, and I send a calendar invite. After the calendar invite, we have the meeting, and then I develop a proposal. Then, look at this the yellow box over here on the right side. I love this. I just kind of developed it recently. I send a calendar invite, but I only send them the proposal when they agree to have a phone call about the proposal. How many times do we send a proposal or a membership app and then they go dark after that? This keeps that from happening. So I make them aware of the process, right? Then I'm much more likely to have them buy into it, and now I'm in control of the sales process. Hey, we agreed that this is the way it's going to work. And by the way, on the top, this tells me how much I engage with them. The more likely they get to the right side of this process, the more I'm going to be talking to them. Let's talk about data. How do we use the database? We've got a golden rule here. If it's not in Salesforce, it didn't happen. We log everything into Salesforce because then we can develop weekly reports, weekly pipelines. We start to see some of the data, and I'm going to show this to you, some of the data from our actual sales activity that tells us how long that they've been in the pipeline too long or too short and how to get them out of it. Here's a sample pipeline report. Here's how likely they are to close, and here's when the close date is. And if you're a sales manager, this isn't a perfect report. Now, that's why I pull it. This is from a year or so ago. But I'm looking at this and I go, hey, hold on a second, gang. We say that we've got this coffee break sponsorship at 10%, but we said it was going to be due, it was going to close 3/31/2017. It's clearly September now. What's the deal? Up or out? The same way on this FIS exhibit for the annual conference. The last activity, I don't even know when it was. We've got to stay engaged. So they're cold because we haven't done anything with them. Here's an activity report. So every time we enter an activity, we're able at the end of the week to pull an activity report that says, here's how many emails we sent, here's how many calls, here's the next action item. You see, we're collecting all that, not so I can say, hey, you're not making enough calls. Hey, the close date is wrong. I'm doing it so we can get information about the sales process. And the more rigorous we've gotten with this, the better we've been at closing, and the fewer prospects get in the pipeline and go cold or drop out. 13% increase in sales from 16 to 17 because of this. And in 2017, our sales cycle to close any kind of deal was 76 days. And now, so far in 2018, same year performance, we're at 61 days to close, a 20% decrease because we've got the information. Here's what I mean by it. So what I mentioned to you was anytime they start to talk to us about a potential deal, and in this case it's sponsorship and membership, we're closing 72% of all membership deals that come into our pipeline because of what? Those 10 questions and the qualification and sending them relevant information during the sales process. 67% close rate on all of our sponsorships. How long does it take? Well, this is moving down too. Membership sales, almost 90 days. And I will say this, the larger the dues amount, the more it is around that 90-day profile. On the sponsorship side, because of a defined end date, they've got to do it by the annual conference. It's about 40 days to close a sponsorship deal. That's actually maybe going up a little bit because we're getting a prospectus out sooner. But this is when you start to talk to your sales team about, hey gang, that membership has been in there for 150 days and you haven't heard back from them. Call them up or out. Let's get it done. Let's get them out of the pipeline. Or let's get them closed. All right, so now I've got like 5 minutes to tell you about some of these tactics, specific tactics that have helped us get these people engaged and keep them from going cold on us. One, I want to make sure we're in the right mindset. Avoid the one-down position. What I mean by that is this kind of language. Hey, I'm so pleased that you would talk to us. Oh, it's such a privilege for you to spend some of your time to talk about sponsorship. I don't do any of that because, one, I think it makes us differential. Here's what I think. I think your associations are fantastic. They are a bargain to be a part of. The protection that you give them and the business development opportunities you offer are absolutely fantastic to scale. So I'm not apologetic about the time I spend with anybody. Be candid. Make sure that you're healthfully removed from the sales process. One of the things that keeps people in the pipeline too long and allows prospects to go cold is that you're too emotionally connected to them and you don't want to close them out, or you don't want to do the difficult thing to get them to respond to you. You're willing to just keep on going back and forth and saying, hey, will you call me back? Hey, let's follow up on this conversation. Not enough. And remember that is it a fit for you and the best members for our organization. I want that kind of mindset. And oh, by the way, if they stop engaging with us and we've got more than one contact in that company, I'm absolutely fine with going around them. Go to somebody else. If they've committed to the process that we've established, the deadlines, the ways that we're going to go through this, and they quit responding after a certain amount of time, I'm going to let them go and go to somebody else in the company, including over their head. All right, so I love this email, guys. I do this in an email or a voicemail. The trick is don't do it too early. I usually 2 to 3 times and not responding to me is fine. On the 3rd time and they don't respond, they get an email or a voicemail like this. Subject line, stuck. By the way, don't edit that subject line. You stuck. I'm sorry we haven't been able to connect recently. The last time we spoke, you wanted to join or learn more about the association. Perhaps you've chosen to join someone else. Unlikely. The proposal I sent was ridiculous. Unlikely. Again, we've been talking to them. They're in the pipeline. We've qualified them, right? Or you've had urgent issues that have taken time and you just haven't had a chance to let me know what you're going to decide. That's usually the answer. It might be a different reason. I just need to know so we can move forward or not. Either way works for me. Please let me know as soon as you can. This approach, I'm telling you, I wish I had the numbers because I used to have it in my head. More than half of the time, you can pull somebody out of a cold status by doing this. Stuck. Sorry we haven't been able to connect. Last time we talked on the phone, you said you were interested in this, in joining or sponsoring. And then go into these 3 reasons, 2 of 3 which are kind of throwaways. You'll get a response. And then once we get the response, we're back on board again, right? Or if you know them well and you've got like at the bottom of the pipeline, they're almost ready to close, this one, subject line, call me on my cell phone. This is the number. Don't send anything else. Don't send anything else. That's it. They'll respond. You just can't do it so early that they're going, who is this guy? You've got to wait until you're almost there, and then they've gone dark suddenly on you. Finally, this is a new one. Handwritten note. Handwritten note. Hey, I think we have something to work on, really. I think we've got a great partnership. and I'd like to reconnect with you, can you send me a quick reply or respond to my next outreach, ? Sincerely, JP. Of course, use your name. Right? Handwritten note is going to get attention. So let me go back on these. Stuck. Call me on the cell. Handwritten note. These are, I don't want to call them tricks because we don't trick people, but I think these will get a response, especially if they are still interested in you, and that's the objective. If they don't respond to these after you've been through the process, let them go. Come back to them in 3 to 6 months later, usually 6 months later. Final thoughts for you, folks. It's 3 o'clock sharp. The things I would do moving forward, get really familiar with that slide number 7, 10 things to know. Get to know the sales cycle. How long does it take? How many activities? Use that to judge some of your activity with that prospect, when to let them go, when to add them, when to drop them. Use your stuck email response or voicemail response. I would love to connect with you. I'm going to send you this deck. It's got our YouTube, our Instagram. Gosh darn it, if you can, get onto our podcast. This kind of content I'm putting out once a week, and I'd love to hear from you about it. It's been a delight. I wish you a fantastic Holy Week. For those of you that practice, happy Easter, and thank you so much for joining us on today's webinar. Keep them going. Bye-bye. Woo! I work up a sweat doing that one.
I think I could start selling now. But maybe not.
Oh, yeah, you do.
Oh, my God. That's great. You work up a sweat to get one in there?
Mm-hmm.
You're a little red. You gotta work up a sweat to do that. That's why. I've just gone.
$29. Again, I'll go through with you with it, but that's pretty good.
Yep. Hey, part of it is, right, the value of doing them, then the value of supporting them, right, the whole thing.
And then,
Somebody called me, and it threw me off for a second.
we can tell.
I forgot about that.
Did you do it from your cell or your regular?
What's that?
Did you do it from your cell phone or your?
No, landline. Okay. Okay, Kim, plug us in and get the lights on, and we'll do it.
Do we want to post sales webinar?
384 for the quarter, guys. Whew. What's that? Oh, okay. Sure. Mike's supposed to be at the beach. Oh. All right. All right. Yeah. Yeah, I think you say that. And it won't. But that was the problem before. The buckle doesn't hook. It's just kind of a, it's kind of a point.
Yeah.
I got it at Cole Haan or something.
Yeah.
That's what you get. Don't get a Western buckle at Cole Haan. That's the problem. What do they know? All right. What else do we have here?